So our next speaker is he's a designer and a teacher. His teaching sort of bucks the trend. He asks his students to engage with issues of sustainability. He asks them to talk to their community. And every once in a while, he gets them to get their hands dirty and actually build something. So, please welcome Duane Elverum. Nice. Thanks.
All right, so I teach at Emily Carr and I teach at SFU in the undergraduate semester in dialogue, and I wanted to tell you about some work we're doing there that tries to distinguish the difference between playing and living. When are we playing and when are we living? When I started teaching about 13 years ago, I believed that if I taught students with all of my heart, they would learn to do the right thing just because I'd filled them with my sort of personal enthusiasm. But over the years, I realized that just providing them with the kind of information isn't always the way to help them do the best thing for themselves and do the best thing for the world. This has been a kind of challenge over the recent years with the kind of changing landscapes, economically and environmentally. So I wrote about this with Janet Moore recently in the Vancouver Sun, where we had three fundamental recommendations how we could fix the university and help them educate our young people in ways that matter to the atmosphere. And I want to talk about the third one tonight, undertaking radical course experimentation on universities. The reason this is important is that Canada has the audacious distinction of Canadians could do nothing more to harm the biosphere around the world, where we share the podium with the Australians and the Americans. And it's quite an ominous situation we're in, and it's not something that we understand that we're involved in. Universities are mostly to blame. Universities are the places where we educate the experts, we educate the people who make the decisions and the power makers and the brokers. And it's absolutely appalling to recognize that a university graduate wrote this somewhere in the world. That wasn't always the case. Universities used to be places where, as Henry Giraud talks about, these were places to create and maintain the crucial public sphere. Places where participatory democracy was critical, and it was kind of the goal. Now it's not the case. We mostly go there to advance our individual personal interests, and it's condoned. It's important to note that this dysfunction was deeply entrenched at the same time that North American culture was freebasing on smoking, drinking, and driving, and occasional spousal battery. So the universities come by this kind of entrenched dysfunction very honestly. The whole culture was in a kind of a brain-damaged state, I believe. So we end up creating these leaders who have the inability to lead in a time of crisis. This is kind of a fundamental flaw that is something we're trying to address. It's an opportunity to rethink what leadership means in the 21st century, and in ways that matter to our lives and matter to our children's lives. Now, this is quite interesting because this vacuum of leadership perfectly timed with two waves that are crashing over us. One, obviously, which I'm not going to say anything about, is the eco-stresses that are subject to a kind of reckoning we have yet to fully understand. But more interestingly than that, I think more important, is the fact that the entire university generation are basically millennials now. Millennials are so interesting to me because they're the first generation of students raised in a car seat. This is so meaningful. They're very confident, they're very optimistic, they're very sincere, and they're very trusting. It's a generation that has learned differently than any other generation previously by orders of magnitude, and they're about 14% of who we're trying to educate. It's something that I don't think we fully understand, and I know that teachers are constantly trying to deal with this fundamentally different change in attitude about learning. Millennials generally think they deserve a B just for showing up, and they come by it honestly. So what we're dealing with here is an education system where we used to think that if we supply enough information, people will always do the right thing. That'll change attitudes, attitudes will change values, we'll change behavior, and we'll all be really happy and we'll all be doing the right thing. But that doesn't work. So What we're doing at the undergraduate semester in dialogue is we're turning the model upside down. We're starting by changing behavior. We're thinking that don't try to give them information. Just put them in a setting where they're able to do the right thing right away. So we take 20 students from all different disciplines at the university. We give them one classroom. We give them the whole term. There are no exams. They work on one project, and they attempt to solve problems together. And this is key because the university is generally siloed, everyone getting their disciplines and their expertise, going off in different directions. And when you're at the top of your expertise, it's very difficult to connect with other experts. The undergraduate semester in dialogue is like the bridge that runs through all of the disciplines and connects them. So the idea is, what would happen if you had a course that took students together, taught them how to solve problems together in a kind of multi-stakeholder way of thinking that was unlike anything else. Students often report that this is what they thought the university was supposed to be like. They often report that this is the best kind of course I've ever taken. I never thought I could enjoy university. So it's basically structured like this. The students invite 20 guests, power makers, decision makers, politicians, creative cultural workers, artists, designers. They host them in dialogue sessions, and then they try to extract from them ways to advance interests in the public sphere. The big deal in the semester in dialogue is that students learn what maybe for the very first time, that their own personal concerns are absolutely related to public issues. There's no distinction between them. We use a kind of model that takes the best from design education, which is in the top right, standard university education, but implicit in the entire semester in dialogue is the idea that you have to do work with consequences. We're not playing here. Your job is possibly to make your life and lives of those around you a much better place. Students eat it like ice cream. It's an opportunity to kind of feel like you're getting educated in a way that matters to the world. Students put on a big event, and they invite the guests back. The sole goal of the event is that students are, in order to get credit, students are required to show how they're going to continue the work of the course after the class is over. The aim of this semester in dialogue is to take the ambitions of a student and allow them to see their own ambitions as being bigger than something they could ever have imagined. The semester in dialogue is like a catalyst that allows students to use their education in a way that's very powerful. And we like to help them sort of become partners in understanding that they can have the highest expectations for their own work, higher than was imaginable before they entered, and they can take it into their work after the semester in dialogue is over. Thank you.